Alright, we are going to talk about trekking poles today, and we're going to split this between three separate small segments in this video. The first will be benefits of using trekking poles in a general sense. The next will be who and what activities you could use trekking poles for, or what type of person is going to be coming to the store looking for them. And then the third, we'll go over the family of Black Diamond trekking poles, the Trail series, the Distance series, and the Alpine series, and what those are best used for, and points of differentiation between each category of those trekking poles. So first up, we will go through the benefits of trekking poles. Generally, people, when they are getting into hiking or have been seasoned hikers, they spend money on hiking boots, they spend money on packs, on tents, on stoves, on everything, and they may not spend very much money on trekking poles if they spend any money at all. So it's an extension of your body. One benefit that I can't stress enough is 4 points of contact on the ground. So whether you're out west or here in the southeast, generally you will be hiking through somewhat rugged terrain. It could be slick terrain on slick rock, it could be talus fields, it could be steep inclines or declines, creek crossings, whatnot. So having 4 points of contact on the ground is going to allow for a more efficient, a faster, and more comfortable hiking experience. Another benefit is a full body workout. So most people do hike for the mental and physical benefits of it. So why not get more of a full body workout? So you're going to get better workout in your shoulders and arms in general when you're using trekking poles. And to couple with that, it's going to be less stress on your joints and your knees and your ankles to provide a little bit more longevity in your hiking life. We all want to be hiking 50 years from now and not just 10 more years. So taking a little bit of stress off your knees and ankles, which carry the brunt of your load, is a huge benefit. Another thing is just obstacles in general. When you're hiking here in the south, you come across a lot of wet rocks. Of course, steep terrain where there's inclines or declines. There generally is a lot of creek crossings and spider webs across the trail. We've all been there certain times of year. The last thing you want to do is hike through that. Logs and rocks can house poisonous snakes, so it's nice to be able to test those before you hike over them, and various other obstacles that could make the hiking experience a little less enjoyable. The last benefit is just a quick shelter. So a lot of trekking poles can be used with the tarp or other brands, including Black Diamond, as a tent or a shelter. It's lightweight, it's easy to carry, it's easy to deploy, and it's much stronger than tent poles. So there's some benefits. We're going to talk about the type of person who would generally use trekking poles. So whether you're someone who's watching this and you're getting into the outdoor recreation and you want to know what trekking pole is good for you, or you're a shop employee and you have someone come in your store and they're talking to you about getting into backpacking or getting into hiking or whatnot, you can ask these questions or identify these activities and know they might be a good person to at least talk about a trekking pole. First demographic is just an older generation, so generally older people. Of course, their joints are worn down a little bit more, and they really enjoy those 4 points of contact and the added stability when hiking through the woods and the backcountry on uneven terrain. Another demographic is just new hikers in general. So with COVID, we've all seen the mass influx of people on rivers, on trails, at crags, etc. So those people are new to hiking. They're not quite used to going over wet rocks or up steep hills or down steep hills. So those people will be a good candidate, of course. Long distance through hikers, those people generally want a little less stress on their ankles and knees to preserve that for the extent of their hikes. They're going to generally want lighter poles, which we'll go into in a minute. A new demographic that I've learned recently with a 1-year-old is families or someone carrying a kid on their back. It's very precious cargo. And the last thing you want to do is slip and fall with them strapped down to your back. So it's very comfortable or comforting to have that added benefit of the 4 points of contact while you're hiking with your little one. Travel in general, if you're hiking out west or in Europe or unknown territory, you don't know what to expect. You want something that's packable and light to bring up there. Winter hiking, if you're hiking into winter in the Smokies, North Georgia, in the high country of West North Carolina, obviously it could be icy or snowy, most likely will be. in the winter, and you definitely want that added traction and the points of contact. And then the last one is just trail running. So trekking poles are more widely used out west for trail running, especially long distance trail running. But I think it's very viable here in the south. We have pretty steep and rugged terrain out here as well. And I think, having a lightweight carbon trekking pole that you can deploy really easily and pack back extremely easy would make that running experience much better. So that is the main benefit to trekking poles and the general demographics, or a good overview of typical demographics that would use trekking poles. And we will go in now to Black Diamond specific, the Alpine series, the Trail series, and the Distance series. So now that we went over the general applicabilities and the benefits of using trail poles in general, we're going to talk specifically about the Black Diamond family of trekking poles. It is divided into 3 categories: the Trail series, the Distance series, and the Alpine series. Before we get into the benefits and the uses of each of those categories, we're going to talk about just some features in general. First up is the Z-pole. So Black Diamond was the first of its kind to introduce a Z-pole. And the benefits of a Z-pole are first and foremost weight. Without adding these flick locks to it, it does, of course, decrease the weight. Another benefit is packability. So if you can imagine, a fully contracted Z-pole is going to be much smaller than a fully contracted pole with 2 flick locks. So good for carry-ons, good for travel, just good for packability in general. One more benefit is just really quick to deploy and break down if you do need to get it. Now some of these do come in fixed lengths, and some of them do have one available flick lock with varying heights if you're not sure of which one you do need. The general rule of thumb for size of trekking poles would be you want your arm at a 90-degree angle when it is upright. So yeah, Z-poles. The next feature for Black Diamond trekking poles is the flick lock. So the flick lock was also introduced by Black Diamond, and it's an easy way to adjust and deploy your trekking pole. So some of our trekking poles will have 2 flick locks. Some of them will have 1. Some of them will be plastic and some will be metal, and we'll go into that a little bit more when we talk about each family of it. The flick locks tend to be a little bit heavier, of course, than the Z-poles, and they tend to be a little bit lower price point because of the technology. So that's the flick locks. One thing to note too in Black Diamond's trekking poles, if it has a Z after the name of the trekking pole, of course it is Z-pole. If it has an FL, it is flick lock. So one cool rule of thumb to identify which is which. Another feature that vary across our trekking pole line is the cork handle. So of course we have 3 or 4 different materials we use on our handles. Cork is the most premium material that we use. It is the most moisture wicking, it's the most comfortable. It's going to help keep away those rodents possibly chewing your trekking poles when you are through hiking or just camping in the backcountry. One thing to note about our cork handles is they are 100% cork. A lot of brands do use injected or CNC'd cork, which has some filler in it, so it's not 100% cork. So cork handles. Another feature when deciding on trekking poles would be carbon versus aluminum. The main differences, of course, is price and weight. Generally, or not generally, all the time, carbon is going to be lighter, but it's also going to be more expensive. Aluminum is definitely going to be a little bit more durable, but a little bit heavier as well. So you're going to have to pick and choose what you want to use it for and how you want to use it. Another feature would be the tips. So all of our trekking poles do come with these carbide tips. The rubber tip protectors, if you are just walking the sidewalk or really easy fire road or something like that, the carbide tips are going to be more trail ready, of course. Some of our Alpine series do come with the snow baskets or the Nordic walking tips right here. So various tips you can put on the end of your trekking pole depending on what you're using it for. And then the last feature would be the slide versus pin lock. So on Z-poles, it's become pretty standard across the trekking pole world. A lot of these Z-poles have this pin, which could be a little bit more difficult to utilize if your hands are cold or if you have gloves on, or if you're just older, maybe arthritic, that pin is pretty small and sometimes it can be a little bit more difficult to push. A few of our trekking poles do have this push lock. So you can imagine if your hands are cold or if you're in gloves, it's a lot easier to utilize this versus the pin and deploy it and break it down pretty easily. So those are some of the features that are offered across the board, and now we'll go into the 3 different families of trekking poles. The first is the Distance series. So the Distance series is predominantly carbon. There are a couple of aluminum. They are all Z poles for rapid deployment and breakdown, and they're meant for speed and to minimize weight. So if you're trail running, if you're doing some fast hiking, any sort of situation like that, if weight is a huge factor, distance is going to be your pole. Of course, because like I said, with the carbon, it's going to be potentially a little bit less durable than an aluminum shaft, but you're conserving weight there, so that's something you have to weigh out yourself. All of our distance poles have the lightweight EVA breathable foam, so there's no cork handles in there. And that is the Distance series. So those do come in the Distance Z. They have an FLZ, which is a Z pole with some adjustability, and they have a aluminum Z pole and aluminum FLZ as well. The next series is our Alpine series. So this Alpine series is going to be best for long expeditions. If you're carrying a lot of weight in your back and you need durability, if you're going to be banging up against rocks a lot, this Alpine series is the most durable of all of our family of trekking poles. All the Alpine series do have the cork handles on it, which is made again for wicking moisture and just comfort in general. A lot of our Alpine series does have the AR or WR acronym on it. So the AR is accessory ready, and that can be something like deploying a tent, a lightweight backcountry shelter. It could be a camera or monopod to put your GoPro or your iPhone. It could be whippet ready for if you're doing any sort of glacial travel. They do come with powder baskets if you're hiking in the backcountry or the snow. And so our Alpine series, like I said, is meant for long hikes, if you're carrying a lot of weight, if you want durability. They do come in Z poles and just a complete flick locks here. You can see in the Alpine series, our flick locks are the metal, so they're going to be a lot more durable than the plastics. But it's going to add a little bit of weight, but again, with the Alpine series, the weight isn't the primary goal here. It's durability and carrying a lot of weight. So who's going to be using this? I already went through that. Long distance hikers, made for 4 seasons, carrying a lot of weight. So that is our Alpine series. The last series is our Trail series. So our Trail series is probably the most diverse of the lineup of trekking poles that we have. It's also the most versatile, and it's best for those that are a little bit more price conscious. If they're not sure they need trekking poles, if they're just getting into hiking and they're not willing to spend over $100 on trekking poles, this is a good pole for them. And they vary. They vary in construction, they vary in handles, they vary in straps, and they vary in just materials used. So as you can see, a Trail Pro is going to have the metal flick lock with a smash lock here, which is similar to the push lock. The Trail Ergo Cork is kind of our top of the line Trail series. It does have the plastic flick locks with the cork handle here. It's a 3-piece, so again, these are all going to be flick locks. There's no Z poles in the Trail series. Our most price point, or least expensive trail pole would be the Trail 2, and that's just a 2-piece with 1 flick lock. It is aluminum. It is going to be pretty durable, so that's one good benefit of these Trail series is they are going to be pretty durable because of the construction of them. And again, those are best used for people who want the adjustability. If you have a kid that's growing, you're going to definitely want a flick lock so they can use that trail pole over the course of several years, or entry-level hikers or people who are just getting into the backcountry in general. So that's a general overview of our 3 categories or families of trekking poles. I'm sure there's one that you could use.